I am a forest ranger, a title I have worn with honor for over 30 years. My life has been dedicated to protecting the vast wilderness of Alaska, a land of breathtaking beauty and unforgiving dangers. The towering peaks and dense forests have always been my home, yet lately, an unsettling weariness has settled in my bones. After 3 decades of monitoring the same trails, I yearned for something different, something that would ignite the thrill I once felt when I first donned my uniform. It was during one of those restless nights, under a sky woven with stars, that I stumbled upon an old map tucked away in a dusty corner of the ranger station. It depicted a forbidden mountain, shrouded in mystery and whispered tales of peril. Locals spoke in hushed tones of strange occurrences, and those who had vanished without a trace. Intrigued and perhaps a bit reckless, I made the decision to explore this treacherous place. It was a choice I would soon come to regret. As dawn broke, I packed my gear with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I told myself it was merely another adventure, but deep down, a nagging doubt lingered. The mountain loomed in the distance, dark and foreboding, its jagged silhouette cutting into the morning light. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, but I brushed it off. I had faced storms, wild animals, and the harshest conditions nature could throw at me. This would be no different. The trailhead was unmarked, hidden beneath thick underbrush. The further I ventured, the more the world transformed around me. The trees grew taller, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers against the sky. The air turned heavy, laden with an unnatural silence that felt almost oppressive. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting. I dismissed the feeling, attributing it to the unease that comes with stepping into the unknown. As I ascended, the terrain became increasingly rugged. The path, if one could call it that, was barely visible, swallowed by the encroaching wilderness. Each step felt deliberate, as if I was intruding on sacred ground. I stumbled upon remnants of old campsites, rusted cans, torn tents, and abandoned gear. A sense of foreboding washed over me. It was difficult to shake the feeling that I was not alone, that unseen eyes were watching my every move. Hours passed, and the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the landscape. I reached a clearing that opened up to a stunning view. The mountains stretched endlessly, their peaks kissed by clouds, beautiful yet menacing. I paused, taking it all in, but the beauty was marred by an eerie feeling that clung to the air. A distant echo of something. Was it laughter or despair? Drifted through the trees, sending a shiver down my spine. I set up camp, trying to silence the gnawing dread that had settled in my gut. As night fell, I built a fire, its flickering light a small comfort against the encroaching darkness. I sat in silence, listening to the crackle of the flames and the whisper of the wind through the trees. Yet the stillness was deceptive. The forest was alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant howls, and the unsettling sensation of movement just beyond my sight. It was then that I noticed something strange. A figure, barely visible in the shadows, seemed to flit between the trees. I blinked, convinced it was a trick of the firelight, but it remained, an indistinct shape that sent my heart racing. I called out into the night, my voice breaking the silence, yet all I received in return was the haunting echo of my own words. The figure vanished, leaving only the rustle of branches in its wake. Sleep eluded me that night, my mind racing with thoughts of what I had seen, or thought I had seen. I clung to my flashlight, as if it could ward off whatever lurked just outside the light's reach. I told myself it was just my imagination, a product of fatigue and the stories I had heard, but doubt gnawed at me. The mountain had its secrets, and I was beginning to wonder if I was meant to uncover them. As dawn broke, I packed up my camp, eager to continue my exploration. Yet, the air felt different, charged with an energy that set my nerves on edge. I pressed on, determined to push past my fears. The further I went, the more disorienting the terrain became. I found myself in a labyrinth of towering rocks and dense foliage, the path I had followed now obscured. Suddenly, the sensation of being watched returned, stronger than before. I felt an urgency to leave, but curiosity compelled me to press forward. It was then that I stumbled upon a small cave entrance, partially hidden by overgrown shrubs. The darkness within beckoned, promising secrets and perhaps answers to the questions swirling in my mind. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside, drawn by an unseen force. The air grew cold as I descended into the cave, the light from my flashlight barely penetrating the darkness. I moved cautiously, aware that each step deeper into the earth was a step away from safety. But the thrill of the unknown propelled me forward, even as a voice in my head screamed for me to turn back. As I ventured deeper, the cave walls began to shimmer with strange markings, ancient symbols that hinted at stories long forgotten. It was mesmerizing yet unsettling. I felt the weight of history pressing down on me, and a sense of dread settled in my chest. What had I stumbled upon? In that moment I realized I had crossed a threshold, one that I could not uncross. The mountain, with all its beauty and terror, had begun to reveal its true nature. I should have turned back. As I stood inside the cave, the dim light of my flashlight danced over the walls, revealing intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The symbols were foreign, twisting and curling in ways that made my head spin. I felt as though I had stumbled into a sacred place, a site where the forgotten past lingered like a ghost. The air was thick with an ancient energy, and for a moment, I was overwhelmed by a sense of being watched. Not just by the forest, but by the very spirits of those who had come before me. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I was a ranger, accustomed to the wilderness and its trials, yet this place felt different, alive with an inexplicable force. My mind drifted to the stories I had heard from locals in the small town nearby. They spoke of the mountain with reverence and fear, warning of those who had ventured too far and never returned. I had dismissed their tales as mere folklore, but now, standing in the heart of the mountain, I couldn't help but wonder if there was truth buried in their words. I pulled my gaze from the wall and focused on my surroundings. The cave was larger than I had anticipated, with passages branching off into darkness. It felt like a labyrinth, and I was but a lone explorer in its depths. I could hear the faint drip of water echoing somewhere deeper inside, a sound that seemed to beckon me further in. But caution tugged at my mind, reminding me of my isolation. As I contemplated my options, memories of my life as a ranger flooded back. I thought of the countless hours spent patrolling the forests, the thrill of spotting wildlife, the serene beauty of sunrise over the treetops. I had always believed in protecting this land, but now I was standing at the precipice of something much more profound. This mountain was not just a collection of rocks and trees. It was a living entity, steeped in history and mystery. My thoughts were interrupted by a rustling sound from the darkness ahead. I froze, heart pounding. The forest had taught me to listen, to be aware of my surroundings, but this felt different. The rustle was too deliberate, too intentional. I raised my flashlight cautiously, the beam cutting through the gloom. What stood before me was not an animal, but a silhouette, shrouded in shadow. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice echoing off the cave walls. My stomach knotted with unease. The stories of people disappearing began to replay in my mind, and I felt a chill creep down my spine. The figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be a woman, her features sharp and hauntingly beautiful. She wore a tattered coat, the fabric weathered and stained, as if she had been wandering these depths for years. Her eyes, wide and dark, held an intensity that sent a shiver through me. She looked as if she belonged to the mountain itself, an ethereal being caught between this world and another. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice low and melodic, yet laced with an urgency that made me uneasy. "This place does not welcome outsiders." I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to retreat. I'm just exploring," I stammered, trying to maintain my composure. "I didn't mean to intrude." Her gaze bore into me, as if she were assessing my very soul. "Intrusion is not the issue. Ignorance of the mountain's power is. You must leave before it claims you." The weight of her words settled heavily upon me. I had come seeking adventure, but now I was faced with a warning that resonated deep within my core. I glanced around the cave, the markings on the walls now seeming to shift and swirl, almost alive. It was as if the very mountain was reacting to our presence, aware of the tension in the air. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What power?" She stepped closer, the faint light illuminating her face, revealing a sadness etched in her features. "This mountain has a history of consuming those who dare to uncover its secrets. Many have come, driven by curiosity, only to be lost forever. The forest is alive and it remembers. You must go." I hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the need to understand. "But I'm a ranger. I protect this land. I want to help." Her expression softened, but there was a firmness in her stance. "Help comes in many forms, but not all are welcome here. To protect is to know when to step back. You are not prepared for what lies ahead." As her words hung in the air, I thought of the countless lives I had devoted myself to safeguarding, the animals, the trees, the very essence of the wilderness. But this was different. This was a force I could not grasp, an entity that existed beyond my understanding. The silence that followed was thick, and I could feel the tension rising. The cave seemed to pulse with energy, as if waiting for a decision. I glanced back at the passage I had entered, my instincts urging me to turn around. Yet a part of me was still captivated by the mystery of this woman and the mountain itself. "Will you come with me?" I asked suddenly, the words spilling from my lips without thought. "If this place is dangerous, we should leave together." She shook her head, a sad smile gracing her lips. "I cannot. I am bound to this place, a guardian of its secrets. But your path is still unwritten. Choose wisely." With that, she stepped back into the shadows, her figure dissolving into the darkness as if she were never there. I stood alone, heart racing, overwhelmed by the weight of her warning and the realization that I had crossed a line. The mountain was not just a place of beauty, it was a realm of ancient power, and I had unknowingly stepped into a story far beyond my understanding. As I turned to leave, I felt the cave close in around me, the walls seemingly shifting, the markings flickering like a heartbeat. I had come seeking adventure, but what I found was a warning, a reminder that some places are not meant to be explored, and some secrets are best left buried. The air in the cave grew colder as I backed away from the spot where the woman had vanished. The weight of her warning pressed down on me, mingling with a sense of urgency I couldn't shake. I had ventured into the mountains seeking adventure, but now I found myself grappling with a reality that felt far more ominous than I had anticipated. As I retraced my steps, the cave seemed to shift around me. Shadows danced in the flickering light of my flashlight, and I could swear I heard whispers echoing through the passages, snippets of conversations from the past. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a reminder of the danger I had brushed against. I had always believed in my ability to navigate the wilderness, but this was different. This was a realm where the very fabric of nature felt altered, as if the mountain itself was alive and aware of my presence. I stumbled out of the cave, gasping as I stepped back into the daylight. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. I looked around, trying to regain my bearings, but the world felt foreign. The trees, once familiar, now seemed to lean closer, their branches whispering secrets I could not decipher. A sense of unease settled in my gut, urging me to leave this place immediately. Yet, I felt an inexplicable pull to return to the forest. What had I uncovered? The thought of leaving without understanding the mountain's secrets gnawed at me. I had dedicated my life to preserving nature. Surely I could find a way to navigate its depths without succumbing to its dangers. I decided to set up camp at the clearing, where I had first gazed upon the mountain's peaks. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I lit a fire, hoping its warmth would ward off the chill that lingered in the air. As the flames crackled, I pulled out my notebook, documenting everything I had experienced. I needed to make sense of what had happened, to ground myself in the reality of my situation. But the night grew darker, and with it, the forest came alive. The sounds of creatures stirred, punctuated by the occasional rustle in the underbrush. I felt a sense of being watched again, a feeling that prickled at my skin. I shook my head, trying to dispel the creeping dread, but it lingered like a shadow. Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed through the trees, freezing me in place. It was unlike any animal sound I'd ever encountered, a mournful wail that sent shivers down my spine. My instincts kicked in, and I grabbed my flashlight, scanning the perimeter of my camp. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing the silhouettes of trees swaying gently in the wind. Then, from the depths of the forest, I saw it. A figure, shrouded in shadow, moved between the trees. It was tall and gaunt, its form barely discernible in the dim light. Panic surged within me. Was this another apparition, or something far more sinister? I called out, my voice breaking the silence, but the figure did not respond. Instead, it paused, tilting its head as if considering me. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing, and took a step back. The fire flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to morph into grotesque shapes. The figure stepped closer, and in that moment, I realized it was not a mere trick of the light. It was a human, or at least something that resembled one. Its eyes, hollow and empty, reflected the firelight like two dark voids. "Help me," it rasped, its voice barely more than a whisper. "You must help me." A chill ran down my spine. I was no longer in control of this situation. The stories of the mountain echoed in my mind, tales of lost souls, those who had ventured too far and were now trapped, forever wandering. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to maintain a semblance of authority. "What do you want?" "I am a guardian," it replied, the sadness in its voice palpable. "Like her. I was once like you, curious and brave, but I learned the truth too late." "What truth?" I asked, desperate for answers. "The mountain feeds on the unwary. It reveals what you seek, but it takes as well. You must leave before it claims you too." Fear gripped me, but I couldn't walk away without understanding. "What happened to you?" I pressed, my voice steadier than I felt. "I sought knowledge," it said, its gaze distant. "I thought I could conquer this place, but I was wrong. The deeper you go, the more it demands. Your spirit, your will. I'm trapped now, a shadow of what I once was." The weight of its words sank in. I was no longer just a ranger exploring the wilderness. I was a potential victim of a force far greater than myself. The fire crackled ominously, and I felt the ground beneath me shift slightly, as if the mountain itself was responding to the conversation. "Please, you must go," the figure implored, stepping closer to the firelight. "It's not too late for you. Don't let it take you." I took a step back, heart racing. This was not how I envisioned my exploration ending. I had come seeking adventure, but now I was faced with an unsettling reality, one that threatened to consume me. The mountain was alive with secrets, and those who sought them risked losing everything. As I stood there, torn between the desire to flee and the need to understand, the figure began to fade, its form dissolving into the shadows. "Remember," it whispered, "the mountain gives, but it takes more. Do not let your curiosity be your downfall." With that, it was gone, leaving me alone with the crackling fire and the encroaching darkness. My heart raced as I grappled with the weight of the warnings I had received. I had to make a choice, to heed the warnings and leave, or to dig deeper into the mountain's secrets, risking everything. I glanced at my pack, considering my options, but the truth was clear. I was already entangled in the mountain's web, and the only way out was to confront the very essence of its power. Whatever lay ahead, I had to face it head on. As the fire flickered and the shadows danced around me, I felt the weight of the mountain's secrets pressing in from all sides. The warnings from the figure lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder of my precarious position. But beyond my immediate fear, I couldn't shake the feeling that there were deeper layers to this story, threads that wove through the fabric of the mountain and its mysteries. I remembered the conversations I had overheard in the small town before embarking on my journey. Locals often gathered at the diner, exchanging tales of lost hikers and strange occurrences. One story lingered in my mind, that of a young woman named Eliza, who had disappeared years ago while exploring this very mountain. Her family had searched tirelessly, but she had become just another name whispered in the dark. The townsfolk spoke of her as if she were a ghost, a warning to those who dared to tread too close to the mountain's heart. As I sat by the fire, my thoughts turned to Eliza. What had happened to her? Had she been claimed by the mountain, or was she merely lost, wandering the trails like the figure I had encountered? I felt an inexplicable connection to her story, a pull that urged me to dig deeper. I resolved that if I was to confront the mountain's power, I would also seek answers for the families left behind. The next morning, I packed my gear with a renewed sense of purpose. The air was crisp, and the forest was alive with the sounds of dawn. I decided to explore the path leading to the cave I had discovered, hoping to find clues about Eliza's fate. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the trees closed in, their branches intertwining like fingers grasping for something lost. Following the trail, I stumbled upon remnants of a campfire, still blackened and charred. It felt oddly familiar, as if I had seen it before. I knelt down and examined the area. Stray objects littered the ground: a broken watch, a frayed backpack, and a faded photograph of a smiling young woman. My heart sank as I recognized her. It was Eliza, her face bright with laughter, a stark contrast to the ominous atmosphere surrounding me now. I felt a chill wash over me. Had I found a piece of her story? The photograph was a connection to the life she had left behind, a reminder of the dreams and aspirations that had been extinguished on this mountain. I carefully tucked the photo into my pocket, feeling the weight of her loss settle in my chest. I needed to know what had happened to her, to understand the forces at play in this wilderness. The path began to spiral upward, leading me toward the mountain's summit. As I climbed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The forest felt alive, as if it were aware of my purpose. Shadows flitted between the trees, and I could hear whispers carried by the wind. Were they warnings, or an invitation to uncover the truth? Reaching a rocky outcrop, I paused to catch my breath and take in the view. Below me, the valley stretched out like a canvas, painted in hues of green and gold. But the beauty was marred by an unsettling feeling. I glanced down at the photograph again, and a thought struck me. What if Eliza had not come here alone? What if she had been with someone who knew the mountain's dangers? As I pondered this possibility, a memory surfaced. Another conversation from the diner. A local had mentioned a man who had been with Eliza, a friend who had vanished alongside her. His name was Tom, and he had been known for his adventurous spirit. But the details were murky. No one had seen him since that fateful day. Had he too been consumed by the mountain? Determined to find more answers, I pressed on. The trail became steeper, and the air grew thin. Each step felt heavier, as if the mountain itself was testing my resolve. I recalled the figure's warning about the mountain's power and its insatiable hunger. Could it be that Eliza and Tom had ventured too far into its grasp, and that I was now following in their footsteps? Finally, I reached a hidden plateau, where the remnants of an old campsite lay scattered. Torn tents and broken gear told stories of abandonment, and I felt a sense of foreboding wash over me. I searched the area, hoping to find clues about what had transpired. Among the debris, I discovered another photograph, this time of Eliza and Tom together, their faces full of life and promise. As I studied the image, I felt a surge of emotions: grief, anger, and determination. I couldn't let their stories fade into obscurity. They had been brave, perhaps too brave, and it was my duty to honor their memories. I'd come to the mountain seeking adventure, but now I was driven by a deeper purpose: to uncover the truth behind their disappearance. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke my concentration. My heart raced as I turned toward the noise. From the trees emerged a figure, not the shadowy apparition I had encountered before, but a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, with an unmistakable resemblance to Tom. "Help me," he cried, his voice ragged and desperate. "You have to get out of here." I was taken aback, momentarily frozen in disbelief. "Tom? Is that you?" I stammered, disbelief mingling with relief. But as he stepped closer, I noticed the haunted look in his eyes, the way he seemed to flicker in and out of focus, as if he were a mirage. "They're coming for you," he urged, panic rising in his voice. "You have to leave now. The mountain won't let you go." My mind raced with questions. What had happened to him? Why did he look so different? But before I could ask, he turned abruptly, glancing over his shoulder as if sensing something lurking in the shadows. "Please," he begged, his voice cracking. "You don't understand, Eliza. She's still here. We need to escape before it takes you too." The urgency in his tone sent chills down my spine. I had come seeking answers, but now I found myself at the center of a dark mystery, entangled in the fates of those who had come before me. This wasn't just about exploration anymore. It was a race against time to uncover the truth and free the souls trapped within the mountain's grasp. Determined and terrified, I followed Tom as he led me deeper into the woods, my heart pounding. The mountain had revealed its secrets, but now it was up to me to navigate the complexities of its dark history and save those who had been lost. As I followed Tom deeper into the forest, the shadows seemed to stretch and twist around us, the trees closing in like sentinels guarding ancient secrets. My heart raced, a mixture of fear and hope propelling me forward. Was this man truly Tom, the friend of Eliza who had vanished alongside her? Or was he another figment of the mountain's twisted reality, a mirage created by the darkness that lurked here. "Where is Eliza?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the dread that gnawed at me. "What happened to both of you?" Tom glanced back at me, his expression a mix of desperation and sorrow. "We were exploring just like you. We thought we were prepared, but the mountain, it changes you. It shows you what you want to see, but it doesn't let you leave." The weight of his words hung in the air between us, and a chill ran down my spine. I could feel the mountain's presence all around us, as if it were listening, waiting for our next move. "What do you mean? What did it show you?" He stopped abruptly, turning to face me, his eyes wide with panic. "It showed us visions of our past, our dreams, but it twisted them, turning them into nightmares. I saw Eliza. She was there, but not really. I lost her in the darkness, and I've been searching for her ever since." The pain in his voice was palpable, and I felt a pang of empathy for the man standing before me. He had been trapped in this nightmare for years, a prisoner of his own memories. "We can find her," I said, trying to instill a sense of hope. "We can help her together." "Together," he echoed, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. But just as quickly, that spark extinguished. "But it's too late for me. I'm not whole anymore. The mountain has taken too much." Before I could respond, a low rumble echoed through the forest, vibrating beneath our feet. The ground trembled, and I felt an instinctual urge to run. "We need to get out of here," I shouted, grabbing his arm. "Now!" But as we turned to flee, the shadows around us deepened, coiling like serpents. The trees creaked ominously, and the whispers returned, louder this time, swirling around us like a storm. "It knows we're here," Tom yelled, his voice strained with panic. "We have to go back to the cave." I hesitated, torn between the instinct to escape and the need to confront whatever darkness awaited us. "Are you sure? We could find another way." "There is no other way," he insisted, his grip tightening on my arm. "Trust me." With no other option, I followed him back toward the cave. The shadows seemed to reach for us, and I could feel the mountain's energy pulsing like a heartbeat. My mind raced with images of Eliza, of the photograph I had found, of the lives left behind. We were caught in a web of history, and I felt an overwhelming need to unravel it. As we neared the cave entrance, I could see the faint glow of light flickering inside. "Stay close," I urged Tom, my heart pounding in my chest. But as we crossed the threshold into the cave, a wave of darkness crashed over us, extinguishing the light from our flashlights. I stumbled, disoriented, and grabbed Tom's arm to steady myself. The air was thick and heavy, filled with an oppressive energy that suffocated my senses. "What's happening?" I gasped, trying to find my bearings. "It's the mountain," Tom shouted, his voice barely audible over the rising cacophony. "It's trying to separate us." I could feel the ground shifting beneath us, the cave walls closing in. Panic surged within me as I fought to keep my footing. "We have to find Eliza," I cried, desperation lacing my voice. "She could be here." "Listen," Tom shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't get lost in our own fears. We have to stay focused." In that moment, a vision flooded my mind. A flash of Eliza, laughing under the sun, her vibrant spirit shining brightly. I felt a strange connection to her, a bond forged by our shared love for this wild land. I focused on that image, letting it guide me through the darkness. "We'll find her together," I declared, my voice gaining strength. As I spoke, the shadows around us began to recede, revealing the cave's true form. The markings on the walls glowed faintly, illuminating the path ahead. I turned to Tom, determination flooding my veins. "We can do this. We have to confront whatever is keeping her here." He nodded, his panic replaced by a flicker of hope. "Yes, we won't let the mountain win." We pressed deeper into the cave, the walls pulsating with energy. The air grew colder, and an electric tension filled the space. I could hear whispers again, but this time they were clearer, forming words that echoed in my mind. "You seek the truth, but truth comes at a cost." Suddenly, the darkness coalesced, forming an indistinct shape at the far end of the cave. It was an entity, something ancient and powerful, its presence radiating a palpable energy. I felt a wave of fear wash over me, but I stood my ground, gripping Tom's arm tightly. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the turmoil around us. I am the guardian of this mountain, the entity intoned, its voice echoing like thunder. Many have sought to uncover its secrets, but few have returned. You tread a dangerous path. Where is Eliza? I pressed, the urgency in my voice cutting through the darkness. We came to find her. She is lost in the echoes of her own desires, the entity replied, its form shifting like smoke. To reclaim her, you must face your own fears, the darkness within you that binds you to this place. I felt a shiver run through me. What darkness? I had faced countless challenges in my life, yet this felt different. I'm not afraid of the truth, I declared, my voice rising. We will confront whatever it takes to bring her back. Very well, the Guardian replied, its voice resonating with an otherworldly power. But remember, the mountain demands sacrifice. What will you give to reclaim her? In that moment, I understood the gravity of my choice. The mountain was not just a physical entity. It was a manifestation of our fears, our regrets, and our desires. To save Eliza, I had to confront the darkness within myself, the doubts and insecurities that had haunted me throughout my life. I will face my fears, I vowed, my heart pounding. Whatever it takes, I will do it for Eliza and for Tom. Tom squeezed my arm, his presence a reassuring anchor. We're in this together, he said, his voice steady. We won't let the mountain take us. As we stood there, bracing ourselves for the unknown, I felt a surge of determination. The mountain would test us, but we would rise to meet its challenges. Together we would face the darkness and uncover the truth that lay hidden within. As the Guardian's presence loomed before us, I felt the air thicken with tension. The weight of our decision pressed down on my shoulders, a palpable reminder of the stakes at hand. The cave shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and I could sense the mountain's pulse resonating through the very rock beneath my feet. The moment had come to confront my deepest fears, the darkness that had followed me throughout my life. Face your fears, the Guardian intoned, its voice echoing in the cavernous space. Only then can you reclaim what you have lost. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. Images flashed through my mind, moments of doubt, failures, and regrets that had haunted me over the years. There were times I had lost my way, times I felt inadequate in my role as a protector of the wild. I had dedicated my life to the forest, yet I often felt like an imposter, afraid I would never measure up to the ideals I had set for myself. What do I have to do? I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. I could feel Tom beside me, his steadfast presence a reminder that I was not alone in this fight. Each of you must confront your own truth, the Guardian replied. The darkness within will manifest in ways that challenge your resolve. Only by facing it can you hope to rescue Eliza. Tom nodded, determination etched on his face. We can do this, he said, though I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes. For Eliza. With a surge of resolve, I stepped forward, ready to face whatever awaited me. The cave walls shimmered, and suddenly, the shadows coalesced into a swirling vortex. I felt myself being pulled into the darkness, the ground beneath me shifting as I was transported into a surreal landscape, a manifestation of my deepest insecurities. I found myself standing in a vast expanse, a reflection of my past. The sky was a tumultuous gray, swirling with storm clouds. Shadows loomed in the distance, figures that represented my doubts and failures. I felt a tightening in my chest as I recognized them, each one a painful memory, a moment of weakness that had shaped who I was. Do you think you're worthy of this mission? A voice taunted from the shadows. You failed before. Why would this time be any different? I clenched my fists, anger rising within me. I am worthy, I declared, my voice echoing through the darkness. I've dedicated my life to protecting this land. I won't let fear dictate my destiny any longer. As I spoke, the shadows shifted, morphing into scenes from my past. Times I had faltered, moments when I had doubted my abilities. I saw myself as a young ranger, overwhelmed and frightened on my first solo patrol. I watched as I hesitated to intervene during a storm, fearing I would only make things worse. Each memory clawed at my resolve, but I forced myself to confront them. I learned from those moments, I said, my voice gaining strength. I grew stronger because of them. I am not defined by my failures. I am shaped by my resilience. With each word, the shadows began to recede, their hold on me weakening. The storm clouds overhead began to part, revealing a glimmer of sunlight. I felt a sense of liberation as I fought through the darkness, reclaiming the strength I had always possessed. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a reflection of Eliza. "You have to save me," she pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. "You can't let this mountain take me." "Hold on, Eliza," I shouted, reaching out to her. "I will find you. I will bring you back." With a surge of determination, I pushed through the darkness, focusing on the light that was beginning to break through. I could feel the connection between us, a thread of hope anchoring me to her. I refused to let her slip away. As I fought through the shadows, I felt the landscape shift again, and I was pulled back into the cave, gasping for breath. Tom stood beside me, his own struggle evident on his face. "I saw her," he shouted, his voice filled with urgency. "I felt her presence. We're getting closer." "Together," I replied, my heart racing. "We can do this." Tom stepped forward, and as he did, the Guardian reappeared, its form shifting with the energy of the cave. "You have faced your fears," it said, its voice resonating with approval. "Now it is time for your companion to confront his truth." Tom nodded, the determination in his eyes unwavering. As he stepped into the swirling darkness, I felt a surge of anxiety. I wanted to reach out, to pull him back, but I knew he had to face this challenge alone. I stood at the threshold, watching as he disappeared into the shadows. The air grew thick with anticipation, and I could feel the tension building. I closed my eyes, focusing on the bond we shared, the shared mission to rescue Eliza. Moments stretched into eternity as I waited, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, a cry pierced the silence. "No, I won't let you take her." Tom's voice rang out, filled with desperation. I opened my eyes, watching as he fought against the shadows that had ensnared him. "Tom!" I shouted, stepping forward. "You can do this! Remember why you're here!" "I can't lose her again," he yelled, his voice breaking. "I couldn't save her before, and I can't fail now." I could see the shadows wrapping around him, threatening to pull him under. "You are not defined by your past," I called out. "You have the strength to overcome this. You are not alone." With those words, I felt a surge of energy ignite within me. I reached out, focusing all my thoughts on Tom. "Fight, Tom. Fight for her." In that moment, the shadows began to waver, and I could see Tom's figure struggling against the darkness. He drew on the strength of our connection, and the shadows began to dissolve. "For Eliza!" he cried, pushing back against the darkness. With a final roar, the shadows fell away, and Tom emerged into the light, gasping for breath but alive. Relief flooded through me as I rushed to his side. "You did it!" I exclaimed, my heart swelling with pride. But the Guardian's voice echoed through the cave, summoning our attention. "You have faced your fears, but the true test lies ahead. The mountain will not yield easily. You must confront the source of its power to save Eliza." "Where is she?" I demanded, my heart racing once more. "We will find her." "Follow the path of your desires and confront what binds her to this place," the Guardian instructed. "Only then can you hope to reclaim her spirit." With renewed determination, Tom and I exchanged a resolute glance. We had faced the darkness within ourselves, and now we were ready to confront the mountain's true power. Together we would uncover the truth and rescue Eliza from the depths of despair. The air in the cave felt charged with energy, a palpable tension that hummed in my veins as Tom and I stood side by side, ready to confront the source of the mountain's power. The Guardian had warned us of the challenges that lay ahead, but we were no longer the same individuals who had entered this place. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger, united by a common purpose: to rescue Eliza and uncover the truth hidden within the shadows. As we ventured deeper into the cave, the walls pulsed with a strange luminescence, illuminating our path with an eerie glow. The atmosphere shifted, thickening with anticipation. I could feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on us, as if it were aware of our intentions, ready to test our resolve. "Are you ready?" I asked Tom, glancing at him. His face was set with determination, but I could see remnants of the fear that had haunted him. "I have to be," he replied, his voice steady. "For Eliza." We pushed onward, the winding passageways growing narrower and more treacherous. The whispers grew louder, echoing the doubts we had both faced. "You will fail," they taunted. "You cannot save her." I shook my head, refusing to let those voices take root. "We've faced worse than this," I reminded Tom. "We've already overcome so much." As we rounded a corner, the passage opened into a vast chamber, the walls adorned with the same intricate symbols I had seen before. In the center of the room, a swirling vortex of shadows pulsed ominously, drawing in the light and creating an oppressive darkness that threatened to engulf us. "There it is," Tom breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "That must be where Eliza is trapped." "Then we need to get closer," I said, my heart racing. We can't let fear hold us back now. As we approached the vortex, the shadows reached out with tendrils, trying to ensnare us. I could feel their cold grasp, tugging at my consciousness, attempting to pull me into the depths. But I remembered the strength I had found during my earlier struggle. I focused on the light within me, the courage that had grown from my experiences. "Stay strong," I shouted over the howling wind that erupted from the vortex. "We can't let it take us." Tom mirrored my resolve, drawing on the same determination. We held our ground against the swirling darkness, the shadows recoiling slightly as we pressed forward. "We're coming for you, Eliza," we called out, our voices united in defiance. Suddenly, the vortex erupted, and a figure emerged from the darkness, Eliza. Her form was ethereal, flickering like a flame caught in the wind. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was also a spark of recognition as she looked at us. "Tom, is that you?" "Yes, we're here to save you," he shouted, stretching out his hand toward her. But the shadows surged forward, attempting to reclaim her. "No!" I yelled, summoning every ounce of strength within me. "We won't let you take her!" The vortex roared in response, and the chamber shook. I could feel the mountain's power coursing through the air, a raw and chaotic energy that threatened to overwhelm us. I took a step forward, fueled by a newfound determination. "Eliza, listen to me," I called, my voice steady despite the chaos. "You are stronger than this darkness. Remember who you are." Her gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment the shadows hesitated. I could see her fighting against the pull of the vortex, her spirit flickering like a candle in the wind. I can't break free," she cried, desperation creeping into her voice. "Yes, you can," I shouted, feeling the urgency swell within me. "You have the strength to overcome this. You've faced your fears. We are here for you." Tom joined in, his voice filled with conviction. "You are not alone, Eliza. We're fighting for you. Together we can break the hold this place has on you." The shadows writhed as we poured our energy into our words, our voices intertwining in a powerful chorus of hope. Slowly the darkness began to recede, revealing Eliza's true form beneath the layers of shadow that had bound her. "I remember," she whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "I remember who I am." With a surge of determination, Eliza stretched out her hand toward us. "Help me!" I reached out, clasping her hand tightly, feeling the warmth of her spirit through the cold grasp of the shadows. Tom joined us, and together we formed a circle of light amidst the encroaching darkness. The shadows recoiled as if burned by our unity, their grip weakening. "Now!" I shouted. "We can do this!" With one powerful motion, we pulled her toward us, our combined strength pushing back against the vortex. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of despair and rage, but we held firm, anchored by our shared bond. As Eliza broke free from the vortex, a brilliant light erupted from within her, illuminating the chamber and banishing the darkness. The shadows dissipated like smoke in the wind, retreating to the corners of the cave. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as the oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. Eliza stood before us, her form solid and vibrant. Her eyes sparkled with gratitude, and a smile broke across her face. "Thank you, I thought I was lost forever." "You're safe now," Tom said, his voice filled with emotion. "We're not letting you go again." As we embraced, the warmth of her presence filled the space, and I felt a profound sense of joy and relief. Together we had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But I also knew that this was only the beginning of our journey. "Now we need to get out of here," I said, glancing around the chamber. "The mountain may not take kindly to our escape." Eliza nodded, her expression shifting to one of determination. "I can help guide us back. I remember the way." As we made our way through the cave, I felt a sense of transformation within myself. The fears that had once held me captive were fading like the shadows behind us. I had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, not just for myself, but for those I cared about. Tom walked beside me, his presence a constant reminder of the bond we had forged through our shared struggle. "I didn't think I could do it," he admitted, his voice steady. "But you showed me that I could face my fears." "We all have darkness within us," I replied, glancing at him with a smile. "But it's how we choose to confront it that defines us. Together, we found our strength." As we reached the cave entrance, the sunlight poured in, bathing us in warmth. I took a deep breath, the fresh air filling my lungs and invigorating my spirit. We had conquered the mountain, but more importantly, we had grown through the experience. Eliza turned to us, her eyes shining with appreciation. "I owe you both my life. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. We fought for each other," I said, feeling the truth of those words resonate deep within me. "And we'll continue to do so." As we stepped outside, the wilderness stretched out before us, vibrant and alive. The forest was no longer just a backdrop to my life. It was a reminder of the journey we had undertaken together. We were all changed now, bonded by our experiences and strengthened by the trials we had faced. In that moment, I understood that overcoming our fears was not just about confronting darkness. It was about embracing the light within ourselves and each other. We had faced the mountain together, and together we had emerged into the light. As we stepped out of the cave, the sunlight flooded over us, illuminating the rugged landscape and casting away the shadows of our ordeal. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and earth, yet a palpable tension lingered in the atmosphere. While we had triumphed over the shadows of the mountain and freed Eliza, I sensed that the true test still awaited us. "We've made it this far," I said, taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart. "But we need to be prepared for whatever comes next. The mountain won't let us leave without a fight." Eliza nodded, her expression serious. "I felt its power in there. It's not just a place, it's a living force. It's been waiting for us to return." Tom glanced around, his eyes scanning the horizon. "We should regroup and plan our next move. We need to strategize and be ready for anything." Finding a nearby clearing, we set up a temporary camp, the remnants of our earlier adventure still fresh in our minds. As we gathered around a small fire, I felt a sense of urgency. We had escaped the cave, but the mountain's grip could still linger. I knew we needed to confront the heart of its power before it could reclaim Eliza. "Let's talk about what we've learned," I suggested, wanting to solidify our understanding and strengthen our resolve. "We faced our fears, but we also learned about the mountain's nature. It feeds on doubt and despair. We have to be strong, not just for ourselves but for each other." Tom nodded, his brows furrowed in thought. "The Guardian mentioned that the mountain demands sacrifice. What do you think that means?" "I believe it means we have to confront our deepest vulnerabilities," Eliza responded, her voice steady. "We've already faced our fears, but we need to dig deeper. What are we willing to sacrifice to fully break free from this place?" The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I considered the implications. "Sacrifice can take many forms," I said slowly. "It might mean letting go of our pasts or confronting the guilt that we carry. For me, it's about overcoming the fear of failure. I've always worried that I'm not enough, that I'll let everyone down." Tom looked at me, his eyes filled with understanding. "We all carry burdens. I've struggled with guilt over Eliza's disappearance. I blamed myself for not protecting her, but I know I have to forgive myself to move forward." Eliza's gaze softened as she listened to us, and I need to confront my own fears of being lost. The mountain twisted my sense of self, but I can't allow it to define me anymore. I need to reclaim my identity. Inspired by our shared vulnerability, I felt a sense of solidarity swell within me. Let's use this time to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally. We need to strengthen our bond and remind ourselves of who we are outside of the mountain's influence. We spent the next few hours sharing stories, recounting moments that shaped us, and reflecting on the lessons we had learned. I spoke about my childhood in the forest, the first time I had felt the thrill of adventure and the responsibility that came with it. Tom shared memories of his close-knit family and the promise he had made to always protect those he loved. Eliza talked about her dreams and aspirations, her passion for exploring the wild and appreciating nature's beauty. As we spoke, I felt the weight of our burdens lift. The mountain had sought to isolate us, to turn us against ourselves, but in sharing our truths, we fortified our connection. We were no longer just individuals trying to survive. We were a united front, ready to face whatever the mountain threw at us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and purple, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. We had prepared ourselves, not just for the physical challenges that lay ahead, but for the emotional ones as well. We were ready to confront the heart of the mountain, to reclaim not only Eliza's freedom, but our own as well. "Tomorrow we head back to the cave," I said, my voice firm. "We'll confront the source of the mountain's power. We know what we're up against now, and we're not going to let it take any more from us." Tom and Eliza nodded, their expressions resolute. "Together," Tom said, a determined fire igniting in his eyes. "We'll face it together." As darkness enveloped the clearing, we settled in for the night, our spirits buoyed by our preparations. I felt a sense of purpose coursing through me. We had faced the shadows and emerged stronger, and now we were ready to confront whatever awaited us. I closed my eyes, letting the sounds of the forest lull me into a restless sleep. Images of the cave and the swirling vortex filled my dreams, but they were no longer suffocating. They were reminders of our strength and the journey we had undertaken. I woke several times throughout the night, but each time I found comfort in the presence of my companions. We were united, grounded in our shared purpose. As dawn broke, painting the sky in soft pastels, I felt a renewed sense of determination. We gathered our gear, the fire from the previous night still smoldering as we prepared to face the mountain once more. Every step we took toward the cave felt heavier with purpose. The time for preparation was over. It was time to act. "Remember what we talked about," I said as we approached the cave entrance. "Stay strong, stay united, and trust in each other. We can overcome this." "Let's do this," Eliza said, her voice steady. Tom nodded in agreement, and together we stepped into the cave, ready to confront the heart of the mountain and reclaim our destinies. As we stepped into the cave, the air thickened around us, heavy with the energy of the mountain. The walls pulsed faintly, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters. Each footfall echoed ominously, reminding us of the battle we were about to face. The swirling vortex we had encountered before loomed ahead, a dark whirlpool of shadows that seemed to breathe, drawing in the light and exhaling despair. "Stay close," I whispered, my heart racing. The warmth of the sun was a distant memory, replaced by the chill of the cave's depths. I could feel the shadows creeping toward us, eager to ensnare us once more. Tom and Eliza flanked me, their faces set with determination. "We've faced the darkness before," Tom said, his voice steady. "We can do this." "Together," Eliza affirmed, her eyes shining with resolve. "We've come too far to turn back now." As we advanced toward the vortex, the howling winds intensified, filling the chamber with a cacophony of whispers. "You are not welcome here," the shadows hissed, their voices swirling around us like a tempest. "You bear the weight of your fears. You will never escape." I felt a surge of defiance rise within me. "We are not afraid. We have faced our fears and emerged stronger. You will not control us." The vortex reacted, swirling violently as if agitated by my words. Tendrils of darkness shot toward us, trying to wrap around our limbs. We stood firm, each of us grounding ourselves in the strength we had cultivated. I remembered the stories we had shared, the vulnerabilities we had laid bare. They formed a protective barrier against the encroaching shadows. "Focus on the light," I urged, closing my eyes for a moment to center myself. "We have to remember who we are." Suddenly, Eliza stepped forward, her voice rising above the chaos. "No more, I refuse to be a prisoner of my fears." She reached out, her hand glowing faintly with an inner light. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned by her declaration. "Go, Eliza!" Tom shouted, his voice filled with encouragement. "You can do this." With renewed determination, Eliza stepped into the vortex, her light pushing back against the darkness. "I reclaim my identity," she cried, her voice echoing through the chamber. "I am not lost, I am found." The shadows writhed and screamed, but the light emanating from Eliza grew stronger, illuminating the cave. I felt the power of her spirit resonate within me, igniting a fire of courage. Together we could break free from this darkness. "Now, Tom, your turn," I called out, urging him forward. "Embrace your strength." Tom took a deep breath, stepping beside Eliza. "I will not let guilt consume me any longer," he declared, his voice steady. "I choose to forgive myself and honor Eliza's memory." With those words, he joined Eliza in the vortex, their light merging into a brilliant display of defiance against the shadows. The darkness shrieked, the sound piercing and desperate as it tried to hold on to its power. I watched in awe as the two of them stood strong, their combined energy creating a barrier against the encroaching shadows. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for each other. And for me. I felt a surge of gratitude and determination swell within me. "Together!" I shouted, stepping forward to join them. "We are stronger together." As I entered the vortex, I focused on the light that burned within me, the same light that had guided me through the darkest moments of my life. I am not defined by my fears. I am a protector of this land, and I will not be silenced. The shadows writhed violently, their grip weakening as our collective light pushed back. I could see Eliza and Tom, their faces filled with determination. We were a triad of hope, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. "Remember our stories," I urged, my voice rising above the chaos. "Remember who we are outside of this place." The shadows continued to retreat, but they were not done yet. The vortex pulsed furiously, and from its depths a figure emerged, an embodiment of the mountain's darkness. It was a twisted version of myself, a reflection of my deepest insecurities and fears. "You think you can escape?" The figure sneered, its voice a mocking echo of my own. "You are nothing without your doubts. You will always be lost." I felt a chill run through me, but I stood my ground. "You do not define me," I shouted, my voice unwavering. "I have faced you before and I will face you again." The figure lunged forward, but I felt the warmth of Eliza and Tom beside me, their light bolstering my own. "We are not alone," I cried, feeling the strength of our bond surge through me. "Together, we can overcome anything." With a powerful roar, I summoned every ounce of energy within me, channeling the light of our shared experiences. The three of us stood united, our lights merging into a brilliant force that surged toward the figure, pushing back against the darkness. The figure screamed, its form beginning to dissolve as our collective light enveloped it. I could feel the weight of my fears lifting, the burdens of self-doubt and guilt dissipating like mist in the morning sun. I was not alone. I was part of something greater. "Now!" Eliza shouted. "Let's finish this." With one final surge of energy, we thrust our light into the heart of the vortex. The shadows writhed and screamed, and in an explosive burst of brilliance, the darkness shattered, scattering like ashes in the wind. The cave shook violently, but we stood firm, anchored by our unity. As the darkness receded, the chamber transformed, the oppressive energy lifting as light flooded in. The remnants of the shadows vanished, leaving behind a sense of peace and clarity. Breathless, we stood together, our hearts racing. The vortex was gone, replaced by a serene glow that illuminated the cave walls. The air felt lighter, filled with the promise of renewal. "We did it," Tom said, disbelief and joy mingling in his voice. "We actually did it." Eliza clutched my arm, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me. I couldn't have done this without you both." I smiled, overwhelmed by the moment. We believed in each other. That's what made us strong. As we emerged from the cave, the sunlight bathed us in warmth, a stark contrast to the darkness we had just conquered. The forest around us felt alive, vibrant and welcoming, as if celebrating our victory. But as we stood at the cave entrance, I knew our journey wasn't over. We had faced the mountain's darkness and emerged victorious, but we would carry the lessons we had learned forward. Together we had overcome our fears, and together we would continue to grow. "Let's honor what we've experienced," I said, glancing at my friends. "We've been given a second chance, let's make the most of it." With renewed purpose, we stepped into the light, ready to embrace the future and whatever challenges lay ahead. We were no longer defined by our fears. We were defined by our strength and the bonds we had forged in the crucible of the mountain. As we stepped out of the cave, the sunlight enveloped us, casting away the shadows that had clung to our souls for so long. The forest was alive with color and sound, a vibrant reminder of the beauty that awaited us beyond the darkness. We had faced the mountain's challenges and emerged not just as survivors, but as transformed individuals, each carrying the weight of our experiences, yet buoyed by newfound strength. Eliza turned to us, her eyes shining with gratitude and resilience. "I can't believe we did it. I feel free." Her voice trembled with emotion, and I could see the light of her spirit rekindled, vibrant and radiant. Tom nodded, his expression a mixture of relief and pride. We faced our fears together. "I've learned that it's okay to let go of the past. I can't keep blaming myself for what happened." I smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie that ran deeper than words could express. "We've all learned something invaluable. The mountain may have tried to break us, but it only made us stronger. We've discovered the power of unity and the importance of confronting our truths." As we made our way through the forest, the path ahead felt clearer, as if the very ground beneath our feet was inviting us to explore further. We shared stories, laughter, and dreams for the future, each step filled with the promise of a new beginning. The shadows of doubt that had once loomed over us had dissipated, replaced by the warmth of hope and possibility. "Let's return to the places we love," Eliza suggested, her voice brightening. "I want to share my passion for the wild with others, to inspire them to appreciate the beauty around us. I want to help protect this land," Tom added, a determined glint in his eye. "We've seen how easily it can be taken for granted, or worse, destroyed. I want to make a difference." I felt a swell of pride for my friends. "And I'll be right there with you. Together we can create something meaningful, something that honors our journey and the lessons we've learned." As we reached the edge of the forest, a sense of peace washed over me. We had faced the darkness and emerged not only intact but invigorated, each of us carrying a piece of the other's strength. The mountain, once a symbol of fear and isolation, had become a testament to our resilience and growth. In that moment, I realized that life would always present challenges, moments of darkness that sought to pull us under. But with the bonds we had forged, we could face anything. We were no longer defined by our fears. We were defined by our courage and the love we had for one another. As we stepped into the sunlight, I knew we were ready for whatever lay ahead. The future was bright, full of potential and promise. Together, we would embrace it. And together, we would thrive. The mountain had tested us, but it had also revealed our true selves, and for that, we would be eternally grateful. Months later, the forest thrived under our care. Eliza led nature walks, inspiring others to appreciate the beauty around them. Tom organized conservation efforts, protecting the land we had fought so hard to reclaim. I documented our journey, sharing our story to encourage others to confront their fears. The mountain, once a source of darkness, became a symbol of our resilience. Together, we had transformed not just our lives but the lives of those around us. We learned that facing our fears could lead to profound growth, and in unity, we found the strength to embrace the future with hope. Embrace your fears and confront the shadows in your life. Just as we face the darkness together, you too can find strength in unity and vulnerability. Share your stories, support one another, and take action to protect what you love. Whether it's caring for the environment or nurturing your relationships, every step counts. Join a local conservation group, start a dialogue about mental health, or simply reach out to a friend in need. Together we can create a brighter future. Don't wait. Take that first step today and be the change you wish to see.